podcast reviewing 1997 sequel Jurassic Park, 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And today we're here to discuss minute 58 of The Lost World. And another quiet news week, so we haven't got much to talk with, but while I was Googling the other day, I discovered a video from a couple of, I think they're physicists, but they actually looked at the glass breaking sequence from here, The Lost World, that we're talking about currently, and sort of would it happen, wouldn't it happen, looking at the cracking and what sort of glass it was. Obviously not safety glass because the way it sort of shatters later on, but sort of just looking at the impact of Sarah on the glass and how thick the glass would have to be to stop her impacting and not just flying straight through it. And in the end they found out it had to be an inch thick glass to stop Sarah from falling all the way through to her death. Which,
really, an inch?
Yeah, an inch of glass. Inch thick.
That is some thick glass.
Yeah. The only place I've seen glass that thick is in swimming pools. I remember doing a swimming pool once where you had a sort of a sauna attached to the pool, and they had like a glass divider, and that glass needed to be strong enough if the pool was drained or if the spa was drained individually, the weight of one body of water wouldn't push through into the empty space. But yeah, that's a lot of glass to have at that back, the back of that trailer.
Yeah.
You'd imagine, like, even just the weight of that, when the trailer went over and hit the cliff, it'd be like the back of the Titanic, just the whole back of the trailer would shear off and disappear.
I could not imagine Eddie putting an inch of glass in the back there. I don't see him seeing any reason to, you know?
Yeah. And I suppose it's something really I haven't really discussed, the fact that back door opens. I suppose in the toy, that back section comes down, it's used sort of like maybe not a lab table, but sort of a table you can put the dinosaur on.
Yeah.
For the lab section of it. Earlier when it was in Eddie's warehouse, that back door was sort of sitting down on brackets, and the back window looked like it was lifted up with gas struts, so it's hard to tell if that's just how it was supposed to open and close, because in the novel there's no such back window like that opens and closes, because there's no, even when that back door is sort of sitting behind the trailer in the warehouse, there's no cable, hydraulic rams or anything to help it lower and raise on its own.
I don't know what the purpose of the back door coming up like that, but I wonder if it was like something that Eddie had so that they could load large objects into the back of the van or into the back of the trailer, so that they wouldn't be able to fit through the main door there.
Well, there's like large sort of, not shipping containers, but large Pelican cases and that with equipment. Because as he says, he's not fully supplied, so we don't know what else would have been in there. Even the laser fences. Oh no, that was the other company.
Possibly.
They could have had something like that, but because you wouldn't get it through that standard door on the side of the trailer.
No.
I suppose, to allude to something else we'll talk about when the trailer does end its life, with the actual prop trailer now that's being rebuilt by the guys in California there, that back window and the door, well, the back window at least is on a hinge to open and close, so again, it could be just something that they designed. I'm pretty sure there is that concept art with the back door open.
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
We posted up before.
Yeah. I just wonder though, if that back door was to open and go down the ground and act like a ramp, there's no sort of non-slip surface or anything on it, so it's just a painted door. And we know it's wood, but I suppose it's supposed to be steel or something with those steel bars. So yeah, we don't really know. But again, I've got the link for that video up. It's only an 8-minute video, something quick and easy to look at. So I'll post it up on the various social medias when this episode goes up.
All right, sure.
What is that? It's a high hide. A hide. You know, you go up and you hide. Goes up to where the trees are, and keeps the researchers out of harm's way.
Actually, it put him in a very convenient biting height.
Alright, ready to get into 58?
Sure.
Right. As we entered minute 57 of the Lost World, Ian had told Nick to get the satellite phone as he climbed down to be by Sarah's side. As we start minute 58, Ian reaches out and tells Sarah to give him his hand. At 57 minutes and 6 seconds, Ian glances quickly over at Sarah's lucky pack, sitting at the corner of the window. At 57 minutes and 9 seconds, we cut back up to Nick, still no closer to grabbing the phone, as the strap slips off the light and it falls towards the glass below. He yells heads up. Ian grabs the lucky pack and swings it over to be in front of Sarah's hands. And as the glass shatters, Sarah grabs it and falls through the open back window into open air. At 57 minutes and 21 seconds, after realising she hasn't fallen, Sarah looks up to see Ian holding her pack. And he says, "Your lucky pack." At 57 minutes and 26 seconds, we cut to Eddie driving hard through the jungle, engine revving, palm front slapping the windscreen. At 57 minutes and 32 seconds, we cut back to the trailer, and Nick's finally climbed down to be by Ian's side, and the two men help Sarah up into the relatively safety area of the trailer. Ian and Sarah embrace for a moment, thinking about the terror she's just experienced. At 57 minutes and 39 seconds, we hear a car horn start to beep as we cut back up to the area above the cliff top, and the MClass pulls to a stop, lights on. At 57 minutes and 50 seconds, Eddie climbs out and turns the torch on and starts running towards the stricken trailers. As he calls out, "Ian, Sarah," the camera pulls back over the top of the trailers as Eddie runs towards the cliff's edge. And as the minute ends, he looks over the cliff and sees a dangling trailer below. And this ends minute 58 of The Lost World. So as we ended last minute, Ian had sort of made his way down the trailer and had arrived at Sarah's side. He sort of gets there, reaches across and tells her to give him his hand. And as you're saying in the previous minute, she's sort of standing there, or kneeling there with 4 even weight points on the glass. And to lift one hand up to reach out for Ian would have just put a lot of weight on that other front hand. Possibly enough for the glass to shatter. But yeah,
you can see spider webbing really thickly on whenever she moves her hand, you know?
Well, that's it. I think it's her right hand. She sort of, at one point, she reaches out to try and reach the side of the glass, and you can see at the left hand it really starts to spider web more. Just because she's sort of shifting her weight by sliding one hand across the glass. But, yeah, Sarah, give me your hand. And we get a quick shot here of Ian looking across and seeing the lucky pack sitting against the side of the window. In an earlier minute, it was on the window near her hips when she fell down, but it sort of looks like it's against that that sort of steel catwalk mesh stuff that's in the corner of the trailer.
Yeah.
I don't think it's actually on the window now, but it's sort of tucked in the corner there. But we get a cut back up to Nick, and that strap slides straight off the light, and we just see the phone start to fall. It's probably a good thing it fell beside her and not onto the back of her head, or onto her back, because I don't think she'd be reacting as quick as she does here. But we get the shot from under the glass, and it's really... they could have maybe sped it up a little bit, but it really looks staged here, where you got Sarah laying there in that moment of heads up. Ian sort of one hand reaches across, grabs the pack, brings it back across and puts it right between where her outstretched hands are. And in that moment, she just must instinctively grab the fabric of the bag as the glass shatters, and she swings down out of the bottom of the trailer.
Yeah. One thing I always kind of, as a kid, was something that kind of disappointed me was that when you hear her falling and catching the pack in her hands, you hear like a slight ripping sound in the pack. So you know that pack is definitely going to have seen better days after this trip.
Well, that's it. It depends. Or you assume, even if Ian sort of just grabbed the pack by the material on one part of it. Most of your extra stitching and that is on the top of where the straps meet the top of the bag and that, because that's where most of the weight's going to be pushing down. So it's a bit dark here to see where they've actually grabbing on the pack, but we sort of get Sarah fall, and it's a natural looking sort of hanging under the pack here, unlike what we're going to get in a little bit later when they're all hanging out the bottom of the trailer. But sort of just that way you sort of turn your hips and you spin when you've only got that one sort of point of contact at the top. But it's also interesting too because Ian's sort of struggling to hold on.
And she's kicking.
Yeah.
So it's not helping at all.
Nah, but once she sort of settles down and looks up and sees he's holding on to her, she stops spinning and he seems to sort of... It's a lot easier holding on. And he says to her, "You lucky pack."
Now at this point we are at the parking garage. The parking garage had was kind of in a shape like the section of fake cliff that they made was kind of J-shaped, so that off to one side for, I don't know, probably about 10 feet, it was just all fake cliff edge.
Yeah, yep.
That's pointing out at the bottom of this thing, at the bottom of this trailer. I don't know, I'm having trouble saying it. But yeah, there's like when you look at the behind the scenes, it kind of really ruins it for you because like 5 feet underneath the trailers, or underneath the actors' feet, is the blue screen netting with the punching bag the jumping bag in case they ever fall, you know.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting. There's one photo that's got the trailer. It's not really hanging. It's sort of leaning against the structure, which I'm assuming was for all the interior stuff. And then as soon as they started working around the bottom of the trailer with the back window from the outside, they would have they had the crane hooked up to it and they lifted it probably 2 to 3 meters to give that clearance underneath. And then again, once it's back inside, they'd lower the trailer back down because I don't think they had the trailer hanging, plus the plus a couple of meters underneath where the end of the trailer would be before you got to the padded bag. I think that because I think the cliff wall was only about the height of the trailer, so.
Yeah, it wasn't even really that. It was mostly like just a couple feet below the trailer.
Yeah. And
then extended all the way to the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of these scenes here where they're actually hanging out the bottom of the trailer, you don't see anything sort of above the rear wheels, if that, of the trailer, so.
That shot that we saw where it's kind of just lazily kind of thrown over the edge, that one was for the for the shots that we get up here in the next upcoming minute, where Eddie is going back and forth from the trailer interior to the MClass Mercedes.
Yep. Yeah, because from memory, when he looks over that edge, it's not really a direct drop off. It's sort of, it's not hanging directly behind the trailer anyway. But
The one thing I really don't like here is that we see like a big giant pane of glass just kind of hanging from a wire right next to Sarah.
Yeah. Now, obviously, that glass would have been there, and there was probably, maybe not an explosive, but there would have been some sort of rigging for that glass to break with her laying on it. Whether it was sort of a pull string going around the frame or something, but yeah, for some reason a large chunk of glass got caught up on something and just sort of dangling there in midair.
Now I'm gonna have to watch that, make sure, see if that ever gets removed from the shot or if it just stays there dangling.
Well, I suppose it's not until all three of them drop back through the bottom that you see that bottom area. So with the trailer being sat back down and reset, it's possible that would have been just pulled off by an extra or one of the prop guys. But yeah, but we cut to Eddie driving hard through the jungle, palm front slapping the front, and again just that drum beat starting to pick up here. which is
Now, I always
great.
wondered how they did that, if they actually built like a tunnel of ferns to slap against the MClass, or if they just showed the MClass driving down the street and all we get is a shot of a hood shot of the shield. And
Yeah.
there's just guys standing out of frame holding giant fake palm fronds.
Well, they've got
You know?
the cameras mounted to the hood of the car,
Yeah.
which is sort of good because it shows you, especially a couple of times he hits a bit of a pothole and shakes it a fair bit, but it sort of gives that illusion that he's driving cross country. And then, as you said, like the palm fronds are just sort of in that right area where they're slapping against where he's trying to see on the windscreen as well, and whether they just plant, as we said, sort of planted a thicket along a 50-metre stretch of dirt track that they could drive this down, because again it's raining as well, so the rain machine would have to be above it. Or if they just had people walking beside the car with, or standing beside the car with palm fronds in the hand, just hit the window. But
Good old Hollywood magic always makes you question those kind of things, though.
Yeah, exactly. And it 9 times out of 10 it is just something stupid like that is the way they done it. But it's just a great little effect here. It's one sort of early bit of just having the camera bolted down to the vehicle, so it's sort of shaky cam. But yeah, we cut back to the trailer, and Nick's finally made it down to Ian's side, and gives him a hand.
Pull up, Sarah.
Yeah, they pull her up into the trailer. I won't say into safety because they're still hanging over the cliff. But sort of Sarah embraces Ian for a few seconds. You can see she's clearly emotional about the situation. I think I would be too. Looking at the cupboard for a new pair of pants. And again, it's sort of like last minute too. There's a couple of minutes here where there's a lot of just sitting, contemplating, and it's broken up here by the car horn beeping as Eddie arrives on the scene. And we sort of get another question raised here. Well, where are the Rexes gone? I don't think Eddie beeping his horn would have scared him off.
No. In fact, I think that's actually what may have attracted them back. It's the beeping and him revving the engine and all that noise that he's making. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sort of, in the novel, turning the lights on in the trailer is what scared the Rexes off the first time, but here, most of the lights go out while they're pushing it over the cliff. But then once Eddie turns back up, the lights are back on, so I'm not sure. A little bit of continuity error there between the takes, but it was only 3 to 4 good pushes from the Rexes that got that back trailer over the cliff, and sort of where it is at the moment, another 1 to 2 good pushes would have the job done. So, was it something with the baby? Was the baby squawking, or did they hear the Jeep coming? But then again, if they're sort of in the middle of attack here like this, you'd think they'd be pretty focused on what they were doing.
Yeah.
Especially with the rain and the storm.
Yeah. Now this shot of the M-Class entering into the frame here, I both love and hate this shot. Because I love it because this is probably one of the best fake jungle shots in the or one of my favorite, not the best, but one of my favorite fake jungle shots here in the movie. But then again, you can also, if you look really hard in like some of the more HD shots, you can tell if you look towards the back, you can almost see where the jungle ends.
Oh, really?
But in a way, you also can't almost see where that jungle ends because it's so dark and it's such a well constructed shot.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah, we don't have any lighting equipment sort of in the back like we did with the T-Rex breakout, but
yeah,
well, that's the thing. Eddie, the M-Class sort of comes out into the camp area here. One of my issues with this is he sort of comes out from this little space, and immediately, or a few metres in front of where he parks the car, the trailer's parked there, with the other half of the trailer off the cliff. Like, this space is nowhere near big enough that the trailer would have been sitting up on top before the wreck started their attack. And it always made me feel like a camp, like he was pulled into a camp fireplace too, because you got the trees sort of laying down either side of the entranceway, like two sets of seats for kids to sit on around a fire or something.
It almost does look like that, yeah.
But it's a great shot. I love it. This crane shot up high as the M-Class comes in. He sort of gets out of the car and starts running through the mud, calls out Ian's name. He's got the torch and sort of shine the torch around the area as well. Calls out to Sarah and then eventually Nick as he approaches the back of the trailer. But just this big pan back across the top of the trailers as he's making his way towards the cliff edge, and the real reveal we get there. But I wish there was a day shot of this just so I could see the detail at the top of the trailer, because it's dark and wet and you can't really see a lot of it. But
there is a couple of good shots from the behind the scenes that we get of this part of the set, and I'll post them up when this minute goes live. And it really is a really well made fake jungle set. I do have to give my props to it. And looking at this, looking at it now, I just noticed that there's a bunch of fake T-Rex footprints lying all over in the mud going towards the trailer.
That was going to be my next question, because I didn't see it on my iPad with not the best resolution. Because we had that nice footprint beside the window earlier after they'd rolled it, and I was going to ask if you can actually see any footprints here around the front of the trailer.
No, it's a bit distorted because of all the rain and mud is just kind of going back to the way it was, but yeah, you can definitely see the footprints going towards the trailer.
Because the other thing is too, if they're sort of milling around the front of the trailer, pushing in that, you're going to get a lot of overlap. Simply having a couple of footprints there with water filling up in them, you're probably not going to see that that outline as clear as what you would if they just walk past.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. I mean, it's not like super clear because of all the distortion from the rain turning it into mud.
Yep.
But yeah, you can see it, definitely.
But we also get a great sound effect here, and we get it sort of later on when we get to the worker village as well. Just like that squeaking hinge sound that I just love for like abandoned or sort of distressed metal sounds and that. We also get in Jurassic Park 3 when they enter the Embryonics Administration building as well. But just as we pull back over the top of the trailer, and it's sort of, you can hear it groaning, that sort of squeaking sound, as Eddie arrives at the cliff's edge and sort of has a look over, and we can see the trailer dangling below, and the crashing surf, and the accordion's not twisted, and it's sitting there open without much damage to it. So, but we'll get to why that is in 59. But Dave, anything else on 58 you want to bring up?
So I just wanted to mention that we have to keep in mind that this is the convertible topped M-Class that Eddie's in right now. So, I mean, he's like soaked to the bone.
Yeah, yep.
This dude is so wet right now. You know?
Well, that sort of comes up later too when Sarah says that the baby's blood isn't drying in the humidity, yet they're all completely dry from a trek through the rain the night before that we see, but that's for when we get there. Just mentioning the convertible Mercedes, it's interesting they went this way to make one of them a convertible when the M-Class has never had a convertible sort of variant released, which is probably why you get wet. I don't know how too many convertibles from the 90s sort of held up rain wise. I know someone had I don't know what it was now, but I remember a family member saying that you used to, especially in hard rain, you used to still get rain sort of trying to come in between that fabric and the top of the windscreen. So
Yeah, my mom had a convertible. It wasn't 90s era, but it was 2006, a Chrysler.
yep.
And when you got really hard rain, the windows would leak, and it was just terrible. We swore that we'd never buy another Chrysler again.
Yep. Yeah, I suppose if you're in California where it never rains, you'd be fine. But anywhere else.
Which brings the question up: who thought it was a good idea to bring a convertible car to a rainforest?
Well, I don't really see the practicality, or especially why put bars on the windows of the other cars if you're going to have the rear of this thing open to
But the top, even, you know?
Yeah.
The top's right open.
Well, I think the roof stops right above the driver's head, I think. Because then the two rear doors don't have a top, and you've sort of got the boot area where there's no boot. Unless it's just a roll bar over the top, because that's what the toy had. Just sort of had the roll bar over the top.
No, it looks like the convertible the convertible part goes from the roll bar in the back, where the back seats would be, all the way to the just like a couple inches to the front of the windshield.
Okay. So they've essentially taken the boot off it and sort of cut the roof forward and removed the back side windows and made it sort of like a little mini pickup truck, sort of.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But then haven't enclosed the back of that open space. So, yeah, no, that's interesting. I put that in the same category as you're there to observe and document and not interact, but you're going to take a car each. And for the trifecta, we'll throw the high heels in there as well. All right, that's 58 done.
All right.
All right, guys, let's get the hell out of here.
Contact details are on the website, thelostworldminute.com. You can email feedback to thelostworldminute@gmail.com, Facebook, The Lost World Minute, Twitter @thelostworldminute, and Instagram, The Lost World Minute.
Easy to remember.
Yeah, very easy to remember. David, thank you for joining me for this record.
You're welcome.
And we'll be back. I've been Brad.
I'm Dave.
And we'll talk to you all later. Goodbye.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
It is absolutely imperative that we work with the Costa Rican Department of Biological Preserves to establish a set of rules for the preservation and isolation of that island. These creatures require our absence to survive, not our help. And if we could only step aside and trust in nature, life will find a way.